Hello and welcome to this webinar on persuasive opinion, argument, non-fiction writing for years 10 and 11. We're looking at how to appeal to your audience, and we're looking at 3 different techniques: using evidence, using humour, and using cultural reference. The first thing is about using evidence. Now, there are all sorts of different evidence you could use, so I'm just pinpointing 3. One of them is called analogical evidence, which means you use an analogy. An analogy is just a comparison to draw similarities to something. So, for example, if you were talking about owning pets, you could say being a pet owner is like being a parent, because although you begin with trepidation, you're soon proud and happy, but then you talk about the burden and responsibility. So this kind of evidence is really appealing to your audience because it simplifies a concept, and something that they understand is being compared with something that might be new, and you're able to get your viewpoint across quite clearly. Secondly, the kind of evidence that you can include to appeal to your audience is anecdotal evidence. Now, an anecdote is a personal story to illustrate a point. It might be from your own personal experience or someone else or something you've heard of in social media or the news. So, for example, you might say, last week, I myself was a victim of gender stereotyping. And you explain maybe going to a shop to purchase something or someone making assumptions based on the fact that you were female. So this is anecdotal evidence, and it would appeal to your audiences because it's interesting, it's engaging, it's entertaining, and it's sharing a life story. Other evidence that would appeal to your audience is statistical evidence. Now, statistical evidence is using number data to prove a point. So you might talk about over the last 3 years, there's been a decrease or an increase or a decline. So you're talking about statistical data, and these numbers make your audience think that you are an expert, and so that's very appealing. Humour also is an important part of appealing to your audience and making things funny, perhaps using exaggeration, using ridiculous metaphors and similes, which, like exaggeration, is kind of going over the top, using contrast to prove a point, or maybe focusing on a small detail with a backstory. So the more you can appeal to their sense of humour, the more they will trust you and the more your opinions will be accepted. So here are some examples of humour that may be appealing and engaging to your audience. It's all about having babies and children, not having babies too early, and that kind of idea. However, you need to be understanding that your audience may not always find things funny, so you have to judge the use of humour carefully. So babies have talons of torture, jagged, deceptively strong, and ready to tear flesh at any point. So talking about the baby's fingernails, trying to be humorous, over the top, exaggeration. They are ear-splitting monsters wrapped in pretty yellow flannel. So you can see this kind of contrast between something that's monstrous, something that's pretty, trying to be humorous. Their fingers are so fat, like little pork sausages, that dogs stalk across lawns towards babies, even when there are family barbecues. So babies' fingers are so fat and podgy, dogs would prefer them to sausages. So again, you have to judge the humour. Will the people that you're writing to, your particular audience, find this particularly interesting, or will they find it a bit offensive or even immature? The last thing to think about appealing to your audience is including cultural references. This shows that your reader, your audience, your listener, whoever you're writing for, that you're part of their world. You understand the things that they experience on a day-to-day level, or perhaps even annually. So you might talk about food, something that is a temptation. It's even more tempting than Ben and Jerry's. It's a cultural reference that they understand. You might talk about festivals and seasons. Everyone loves hot chocolate on Christmas Eve. Again, it's appealing to that sense that we have a shared experience. You might talk about music. You might already have Justin Bieber confidence. So you're talking about confidence and referring to a music artist that they may understand or be aware of, or maybe even film and TV, like Iggle Pickle, I Was Elated, perhaps something that they understand from their childhood. So I hope that's helped you understand how to appeal to your audience. Use evidence. It might be anecdotal or analogical or statistical. Use humour, exaggeration and contrast, and include cultural references. Thank you for joining me, and goodbye.